Tēnā kōrua.
Tēnā koe.
Jenny-May Clarkson and Dean Clarkson, extra bonus special human, who arrived to totoko Jenny in this kōrero, because as interviewers, we don't always love to be interviewed.
No, not at all. So I'm very glad that my husband is here for whatever haringa we go on during this podcast. Thank you for allowing him to be part of this.
It's such a pleasure. Welcome, Dean.
Kia ora.
And thanks for being up for it.
Well, I'm not sure I know what I'm up for, but anyway.
No, this is so good, because I texted you and I said, oh, look, if you want to bring Dean along,
Yes.
and go for it. But I didn't know if you were. And so 2 cars in the driveway.
Well, we kind of just, last night I said, Petra said you can come along if you want. And then that was the end of the conversation.
Genius.
So I drive up here and he's sitting there. So thanks for being here, babe.
So good. And look how beautifully presented he
I know.
is.
I think he had a moment. And, maybe I'll make it in. Maybe.
This could be much.
I was looking forward to cuddling up on the couch over there.
Hey, look, well, you're such a dynamic individual, Jenny-May, and by individual I mean a dynamic person who's integrated into so many communities. And you've had, you've got a media whānau and a netball whānau, and you have a local community in Clevedon, and you have police whānau, and all these different kind of radio whānau. You've got. When I was talking to a dear friend, she said it's like Jenny-May's lived several lives. And so I'm really interested in, I guess, exploring some of those lives and hearing what you've gained from this journey you've taken, which has moved between communities, I guess. So where to start? Because you're both here together, can we do a little bit of your love story? Because I've heard your story, and honestly, it just makes you smile from ear to ear.
I'd like to thank Wendy Petra, actually, for being part of my story, because I was with a friend and we were going to a farewell. And I was at this farewell and feeling a little bit sorry for myself, being single at 40-something. 40, yes, at 40. And I remember being with Wendy and she said, Jenny-May, you just got to get out there. You don't hang around with all of us here. I mean, what's the point? You need to get out there. You need to put yourself out there. And she just encouraged me to explore. And as a result of that, I ended up going out that night and meeting my wonderful husband.
That night?
That night. So it was the same night.
You just wandered into a bar?
There was a couple of us and who were at that same farewell, and I said, right, let's go. And off we went. There were 3 of us, and we started at one bar, and then we decided to move to another one. And the one we went into, my husband was sitting at a lena. I was standing on the other side. When I walked in, I looked at him and I knew straight away. There was a feeling of just this connection.
You saw each other. Dean, tell me what from your perspective.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much the same. So I had, my mother 3 weeks earlier.
No, sorry, because Jenny's
3 weeks before that, I had arrived back at my parents' house and was sitting down having a beer, Dad and I, and the sports news was on. And Mum is in the kitchen and she looks across and she goes, son, that Jenny-May coffin would be a good catch for you. And I turned around and was like, what? What planet are you on? And she's like, no, I read it in the magazine. She's 40, single, gutsy woman. And I'm like, you're full of shit. And me and my dad looked at each other and just carried on drinking. We're like, what the heck? And then anyway, I had finished.
This is a great story.
Yeah, actually. And I'd been doing some therapy, and
my
counsellor had. This is on the Tuesday. She says to me, "You're ready now," and I says, "Ready for what?" She said, "You're ready to meet your wahine," and I went, "Oh yeah." cool. And she's like, yep, she's going to walk into the room. You're going to know straight away. She's about 5. She described her.
No way.
She said she's going to be
5 foot. Did she get the height right? No, anyway.
Yeah, about thereabouts, give or take. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Thursday night, we were at the bar. It was my farewell for a work mahi that I was doing. And I only went to this bar because I knew they had a dartboard in there and thought that'd be cool. And so, but they don't actually play darts; they just hung them on the wall. So that was dumb. So we're sitting there, and me and my mate, and we were about to leave. We were supposed to leave, and a colleague said, "Oh, I'm coming." I'm like, "Oh God!" So we had to wait. We said, "Okay, we're waiting," just as well. And then me and my mate are side by side, and the door opened, and I know it sounds really like it's like the light. As soon as I looked, I went, "Holy crap!" And I didn't know who she was at the time. I hadn't, but I knew I had this feeling. And even my mate said to me, "Bro, that's your girl." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And he said some other things to me that I won't
not
say.
broadcastable.
Well, yeah, no. And anyway, and then so I sat there and kind of stunned because I didn't know what to do. Yeah, see, this is right. And then she came and sat opposite me at the table, and I couldn't move. And then I started doing the kind of funny looks, like going, trying not to look at her, but trying to look at what's behind. But there was nothing behind me, but I kept turning as if I was looking at something behind me, but I was actually trying to look at her. Anyway, she, being my wife, wanting to hurry up things, she just leans over with her beer and says, "Cheers." And I went, "Oh shit, my glass is empty." So I just leaned over and said, "Cheers." And she said, "Best you go and fill that up." And then we talked till the sun came up.
Yep.
And you were engaged 11 days later.
Yes.
9.
9?
Oh, is it 9?
There's some debate
Details
around
on
that.
not
Different things come and go, but yeah.
Some days are longer than others.
Yeah, with a bread tie.
Yes.
A bread tied.
As
a ring.
Engagement ring. Oh, look, I just, I'd been married before. He'd been married before. It was like, all of that stuff. Actually, it doesn't mean anything. It didn't, for me, when we first met, it was just about the connection that we had. And if it had to be a symbol of something, well, bread tie is fine, which I kind of mentioned in the conversation on the night we met. So he turned up with a bread tie. Although it almost didn't happen because I was in a grumpy mood when he asked to marry me and said, "Oh, should we walk down to the waterfront?" And I said, "No, it's cold. I'm tired."
I was like, what? Well, I'm going down there then. So I wandered down myself going, "Oh my gosh, here we go."
Hang on, we've missed a step in this too, because the night that we met, he texts his mother.
Oh, yeah.
And says, "You won't believe who I'm with."
True story. She's like, and
when
I always
found out
play
about
jokes
that, I
on
went,
my
"Oh,
mother.
that's weird. That was weird." But anyway, hence the relationship between...
I didn't let you know at the time.
No, I know.
I texted that, but...
I don't even know how I respond. How did I respond? Can you remember? I can't.
You just smiled and went, "Oh, sorry." You went, "Yes." I'm like, "Well, yes." Yep. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Teamwork. And then you've got you created 2 sensational humans, which is pretty profound because you were 40, so
geriatric mother, yes.
And can I ask, in this season, because your love story is quite vibrant, I see you celebrate each other online, the kind of the wairua, the spirit of your romance is alive. And it doesn't mean that you're not also doing it on the daily grind, right?
Totally.
So, and you're a similar age to me, actually a little bit younger, Jenny-May.
Oh, kia ora.
And
you look fabulous, though. I would never have guessed you.
I'll take that. So in this perimenopausal season, how's that for you guys, navigating that as a team? Like, how do you approach it together?
Well, I didn't actually know it was happening initially. And, because we don't have this conversation enough. But I was in the makeup room at TVNZ, and the women there were talking about night sweats, feeling brain fog, feeling a bit grumpier, just lack of energy, all these sorts of things. And I went, whoa, what are we talking about here? And so that's how the conversation started. I went, oh my God, that's me. I don't know any of these things. And in the meantime, my poor husband is suffering from a wife who is just going from, extreme highs to just losing it in a moment. And for me, I knew that was happening to me, but I just didn't know how to stop it when I was in the moment. So we battled for, I reckon, a good year of me being like that. And it's only really just been in the last 6 months through hormone therapy that everything's kind of balanced out a lot more. Anyway, that's my very short assessment of what the last year and a bit has been like. But
Dean,
what's it been like for you?
Oh, it's definitely had its challenges. I guess having the language now around it was really important, because you kind of, when you're in that space, you're going, is it me? Or like, are we good? Like, and I would often ask, are you all good? Like, because you seem to be really distant. And then she couldn't articulate what was really happening, but she was aware that something was. And I remember her talking to a meno doctor or someone, and I was cooking, and then I heard her.
It was online.
Yeah, it was online.
Yeah.
And then as she was talking and responding to the questions that she was being asked, and you broke down, and you talked about, my husband, and here he is, not knowing what the hell's going on with me. And at that moment, it was kind of like, it was like the aha moment, and you're going, okay, we're good. How do I now tautoko this process for you? Because, well, apparently men can have menopause, they call it. But I thought about writing my own book, menopaused in those moments,
True.
But not in a way of feeling bad, but actually helping men understand what that actually means in a relationship, because I think there's a whole lot that happens that you kind of go, wow. And men being men, they don't want to talk about any of that. They'll just think, oh, she's not into me anymore or whatever. But I guess for me, I'm always thinking about how do we become better. So I'm always looking to find a solution for those things. And it's hard. It's hard from the outside because there's nothing I can do.
It's so hard for men. It's so hard
just to support.
Watching their wahine suffer. I reckon it is.
Yeah.
And lots of relationships break down at this point, right?
And now you understand why. Now that I'm in it, I kind of go, man, I can, and it makes me sad that as couples that we don't understand what happens to our bodies as we start to age, and we just accept it as, oh well, there's no longer a bond between us, or oh well, that's just her, being her crazy self, or whatever that looks like for different people.
Yeah.
And that makes me very sad that there are relationships that break down as a result of something that is naturally happening, naturally occurring to us without any understanding about it. Again, not talking about it enough.
And I guess I've got a couple of questions. One is, what did the aha moment change for you? Like, what material difference did it make when Jenny-May was, say, enraged or calm or sad, or any of those things that we do kind of go through, these heightened emotions, it feels like?
I just started listening to my podcasts about menopause to try and better educate myself so that I could be a better husband for her in those moments, because not that I can, as I said, not that I could do anything, because I knew she was going through hormonal stuff that she was trying to, but I would hear stuff, and so I'd say, hey, I heard this today, just to try and,
which was nice
let
for him,
her know.
but it would annoy me. Because now he's trying to tell me about stuff that's happening to me, and so I'm going, oh yeah, I get it, but just slow down, mate.
Calm the farm.
Yeah.
I think for for us, it was him understanding, well, having the language first of all, and understanding what I was going through. Dean actually being part of that conversation that I was having with the meno doctor, and he was able to hear everything that I was saying about my own experiences, which gave him a bigger understanding. And I think because I was talking to a professional, that she explored things that I didn't necessarily know how to articulate. And so for Dean being part of that conversation, I think that was really helpful for us as a couple. So he was a lot more forgiving, had a lot more grace for me, but at the same time, when things got a little bit, hairy, then he would push back a little bit at me too. And, I think that's healthy.
So good too, because then, it's so human, right, to take it personally. I'm being rejected. And then also to other, you are a problem. We kind of simultaneously can, as human beings, withdraw from pain and push away. And so then in something like menopause, where the woman might not know what's happening inside of her, and the man might be like, oh, she obviously doesn't like me anymore, and then she's crazy, or she's a problem, or this is a bit much, and the woman's like, he must be a problem, there's something definitely wrong with him, and there's something wrong with me. So I want to draw on this point, having the language. Can we pivot from having the language for menopause to having the reo?
Yep, without a doubt. I spent 30-something years without the reo. And, sorry, I always get emotional.
Yeah, of course, it's worth it.
A lot of the time it's because of my dad, who was on the journey with me. My dad's no longer with us, so it conjures up images of my dad being, with him helping me. Him and I had a relationship that was very, we'd butt heads quite a bit. And that didn't change during my real journey. He'd ask me to, just keep talking. And I'm like, well, what am I talking? I can't talk. I don't know. I don't have the words. I don't know how to put a sentence together. But it's allowed me to be part of who I always thought I would be. And I know that sounds like a concept, but I always felt like I was part of a club, but I didn't have a key to get into that club, and the key was the reo. So now that I have that key, I can unlock the door to this wonderful world of who I am as Māori. I no longer have to put my head down when I go to a marae. When somebody speaks reo to me, I can walk confidently with my head up, and if I don't understand, say in Māori, ka reo i te mōhio ki tō kōrero, I don't know what you're saying. And so, it was a special time when I went to learn, and I'm grateful that there was a time in my life where I finally decided, this is it. I'm taking a year off, and I'm just going to immerse myself completely in the reo. And my dad was part of that. He would drive up from Pio to Auckland every second or third week in his 70s and just sit with me. And we'd go to a Warriors game with Scotty Morrison's book, and I'd sit there and I'd be going, okay, and then I'd say a phrase and he'd look at me, because he was old school and he had to learn the reo as well. They had it when they were children, and then of course, don't speak te reo Māori, it's not going to get you anywhere, and so he lost a little bit of it. He went back to Waikato University. I still wonder where my dad was going when I was a teenager. He'd travel into town, into Te Kuiti, which was 20 minutes away, once a week, and he'd attend classes.
No way.
So he did this over 3 or 4 years.
And you didn't know?
I had no idea. I wasn't interested. I was a teenager. I wasn't interested in what my father was doing. I was just interested in me playing sport, all my mates, all of those sorts of things. And so when I was learning, he was learning at the same time.
Wow.
So we'd learn different kupu, different words together, different phrases. And, I'm so grateful for those memories with my dad and how it changed our relationship. And, I often say about my dad, I learn more from my dad now that he's gone than when he was with me, which is sad, but I'm grateful too, because I look back on some lessons he taught me and I go, oh, that's what you were talking about, Dad. Oh yeah, I get it now. So even beyond the grave, he's well and truly with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a taonga, though, the fact that even for other parents, this idea that as parents, when you sow something precious and good, some wisdom, some whakairo thoughts into your children, even if they don't pick it up then.
Right then.
Yeah.
I hold on to that because I do that with my sons all the time.
I hold on to it too.
So I'm going, okay, I'm just going to plant a seed and then maybe one day, you know.
A weed or a
kauae,
plant.
Yeah.
Rako, a tree will grow.
Something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have that in me now of thinking of those things that my father had taught me and passing that on to our sons, who they remember. Yeah, they remember their koro. But yeah, in terms of the language, it's, that's the best way I can describe it, having a key to a club, that I didn't have previously.
A key to a world, almost, hey? I mean, it's such a beautiful metaphor, and I do wonder if we haven't even unlocked the profound beauty and power of language, in so much as I understand when you can't speak a language, it's very different. It's very different for Māori. There's language trauma and the pain, the whakamā, the shame of not speaking something that is who you are and yet you don't have. And then there's this sense of alienation of people feeling like they don't understand what's going on and they're not used to that. They're feeling left behind, or this language is being forced on me. So we've sort of got these two, and that could draw us away. But if we could see the language as something that would weave us together, that would open a door, then that's a completely different orientation. I don't perceive we can feel things unless we have the words for those feelings. Like Brené Brown does a lot of science around emotional intelligence and emotional well-being. If you don't have the language for your feelings, you can't.
Actually, that's really interesting. I mean, taking it away from the real kind of conversation, but around that's really important for me, for our sons, is to ensure that they do have the language, the words, the space to be able to express how they're feeling. And we will do that with them. When we know something sad has happened or something wonderful has happened, they're very much like me. They kind of, how was it? Good. Okay, what was good about it? I don't know. It's just good, mama. Move on. They've already moved on. And in a sense, that's kind of me. Whereas my husband will sit in something and then, start to talk about this amazing experience, and I've already moved on. I've given him a moment and then I've moved on. But it's really important for us to be able to do that for our sons, because I just wonder, obviously we're different. Women are different from most men, apart from my husband, who does manage to express himself very well. Is that we talk all the time. I can have deep conversations and go deep very, very quickly with, women who are in my circle. But for our boys, they don't have those conversations. Our boys are 8. They're not having those kind of, all they're doing is kind of pushing, farting, laughing about, somebody's pants or whatever. But actually allowing them to feel what they're feeling and then giving them the language so that they can tell us what it is that's going on for them. Oh, I've got a bit of a sore puku, mama. Oh, your sister's just moved out. There's all this stuff and emotion going on. Sometimes they won't give us anything.
But I guess modelling it's something, like if you make space for it, and obviously Dean does. Yes. You were going to say something, Dean.
Oh, no, just you see them feeling it, but they can't articulate the feeling. So I'll observe that, and one of our sons is quite a deep, and he's kind of, he feels it a lot more, but he's trying to figure out what to do with it. You can see him. Even the other day when his sister moved to Wellington, he sat back. I was back in the kitchen and I was watching him kind of, he didn't want to get emotional because he was on his way to kura, but he didn't want to show her that he was really sad either, because he was trying to be strong.
He's very aware
but
of how...
he knew what was going on, and he was watching everybody. And I was just like, my boy's going off to kura carrying that, and he hasn't been able to express that. And so I said to Jenny-May that was going on for him. And I caught the other one too, quite, he was trying to catch his eyes and,
but...
do a couple of deep breaths, but he'll quickly move on. But you can see that they feel it, but it's then how to help them to bring that feeling to the surface.
How to language it. Yeah. And I think that so often in some situations all we can do is attempt to language it ourselves.
It's hard though, when you're having those conversations with them, because you don't want to put words in their mouth about how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time we'll kind of try and open the door for our sons and they will not walk through. And so we've learnt to leave it. And usually it'll be days later where you're lying there, sitting in bed, having a little kōrero about something, and then boom, there it is. And then just allowing them to just talk through it, really.
Yeah.
Not say anything, just, kind of probe a little bit more. But at some point, allowing them an opportunity to be able to kind of come back at us and go, actually, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And language is so profound, right? Even calling, I'm working on calling elderly people elders. I'm working on calling empty nesters spacious nesters. I'm working on calling menopause a second spring, or a doorway to the wisdom years. And how we word things and conceive of things creates the future that we walk into.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I really love that, because you're creating a different way of thinking for the person who may be going through whatever it is that you're talking about, whether it's menopause. And again, it's having the language to be able to open up spaces for people. And if, I think about my te reo Māori journey, that's what that has created. I mean, you talk about, opened up this whole new world. Well, it did to me too. I felt like I was on the outside. Yes, I'd grown up on the marae. Yes, there was something within me when I was in certain spaces that I felt like I belonged. But then there was also, in those same spaces, a feeling of, no, I don't belong. I don't belong here. And it was the reo that allowed me to be part of that.
So profound.
I don't believe that you have to have the reo to be part of that world, but I do believe that the reo allows you to engage in it in a deeper, more profound way. That's certainly been my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. And can we talk about your moko kauae, which is tino tāhua?
Tino, please.
So beautiful. Can you tell us about that journey for you?
It's been a couple of years in the making. Some would say the past few decades, but it's the want, the feeling, kind of came and went over the last few years. And I think a lot of the times that it kind of went away was fear, not knowing how people would respond to it, being in the public eye. But it came and went, and then it was around Christmas time, or just before Christmas time, that it kind of came and it never went anywhere. It just stayed. So I sat with that for a couple of weeks before I even said anything to Dean, because I didn't talk to anybody else about it at that time. And we were sitting outside one day and I said, I think I'm ready. And we just engaged in a conversation, and then I went and pretty much just felt my way through the following few months. I was doing my own research around it. I had conversations with people that I mattered, and that was one of my aunties, that was my mum, because I wasn't sure how she would respond to it either. But I kept my circle pretty close about who I went to, and deliberately so, because there are all sorts of thoughts, feelings, opinions about who, why, all of that should receive one, and that, it's your family that, are the ones that say, yes, here it is, that this is your time. But, I also understand that it's a colonised way of thinking too, around whether I deserve it or not. And that was never a question for me. Once I started to dig a bit deeper, that was never the question for me. It was about, this is who I am. This is part of my whakapapa, and going back to my great-grandmother, who was the last one to wear a kauae within my whānau. And then the story around her and her kauae, and then how that was passed and agreed upon by our whānau to be passed on to my auntie. And so she was the next one, only just in the last couple of years.
Oh.
And she came home to our marae to have it done. And then, you know, all of those things kind of in my, so do I go home? Do I go to the marae? How do I do this? How do I do this that it feels right for me, but I'm being respectful? All of those things. And then I had conversations with my husband as well, and going, oh, this is what I'm thinking. And then he would say, push back a little bit about my thought, because he obviously knows me incredibly well. And sometimes I'll just say things and I'll make decisions and go, yep, this is what I'm going to do. And so he's like, well, have you thought about this? And I go, oh, and I wouldn't say straight away, because, you know, that would...
You don't want to let them know they're right.
No, that's right.
That's not
so
good.
I'd sit with it for a couple of days, and then I'd come back and go, oh, no, you're right. Yeah, no, that's good. Anyway, it was kind of internal wānanga with people who mattered to me. And then there was the build up to it once I'd, you know, kind of made the date. And then it was building up to that day, which was beautiful. It really was, and it was perfect. It was just my mum, my sister, and Dean. And, you know, that whole journey going to Ngunguru, where I was to have it done. But, you know, but again, it was beautiful now that I can reflect on it. But at the time, I'm like, right, yep, got to go here, got to be here at 10 o'clock.
Doing an interview on the way in the car with Linda Stewart.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then you kind of reflecting on everything, and just having my mum there was, because I wasn't sure how my mum would be. And initially, she pushed back a little bit. And she said, well, if that's what you want to do, then, you know. My mother also knows that when I make my mind up about something, that, you know, come hell or high water.
Woe betide the person who stands in your way.
Away I go. So having her there was really special. And yes, this receiving my kauae was beautiful. But to me, it was having my sister and my mother and hearing the kōrero that was going on whilst I was lying on the table. And the kōrero that was being had with my kaitā, his wife, Kiri, and her giving that understanding to my mum and my sister about kauae. And my mum was just this complete, it was beautiful to hear, and hear her say, thank you, I feel really settled now, understanding everything, because I'm not very good at explaining things to my mother. I'm kind of going, this is what I'm doing. And then I just get on with it. But Kitty took the time to explain everything to her about the process that I had been on with them in terms of, you know, design. And so she was really settled by the time we left there. And she kept saying to me, it looks absolutely beautiful, Jenny-May. And I never expected to hear those words from my mum about my kauae.
Wow.
But part of that was getting that, as a mum, her fear of how people would respond. She grew up at a time when, it, you know, in society, a lot of our nannies were shunned. You know, she saw that. She didn't want that for her daughter. That's her fear as a mother. And all those fears were allayed during that time I was lying on the table. And so, again, I say, whilst receiving this was beautiful, more beautiful for me was seeing my mum turn around, have an understanding, finding love within all of that at that time.
Is it correct your mum is Pākehā?
No,
she's
Māori.
Māori.
He Māori. So my mum's got this incredible story, but it's a story for her to tell. But she was adopted. So she met her father maybe once, maybe twice. He was Māori. But she grew up in a whānau where her dad who raised her was Māori and her mum was very English. Very English. Oh, my mother was never going to work a day in her life. Oh, how quickly that came to an end when she hit 19. But yeah, she was raised very English, my mum. Yeah.
Well, so the haerenga of you receiving your kauae has been like this healing kind of bond building space.
Yeah.
Has it made a difference to how you move through the world?
Totally.
Tell me more.
It's hard to articulate. It's hard because I was asked this question when I first got back to work on the Monday. So I received my kauae on the Saturday. I had a week off work to heal, and then came back on screen on the Monday. And after the program, after breakfast, I did an interview with one of my friends on Te Karere, and that was his question to me right towards the end. He said, "Does it feel any different?" And I had to stop and think about it. And I said, "No." And then I went, "Yes." And he knew straight away. He goes, "It feels like your whānau are with you, that there's a strength with you." And I went, "Yes, that is it." It's not that you don't feel that support from your, but, I think back and I go, my great-grandmother wore her kauae. I have a connection to her. My grandmother was with me when we went on this journey. She's passed. But when I went to speak with my auntie, she said to me, "Your grandmother's going to be with you," which it kind of took us back, my mum and I, at the time when she said that, because she didn't have a kauae. She died very young, in her 40s. And that, knowing I had her with me, I didn't know much about my grandmother, but that connection for me now is very, very strong. And I wonder again whether she died early, whether this was something that she had wanted for herself, maybe not. I don't know. But having her there with me, all of that created this bond that I hadn't previously connected into, I think is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, it's like you knew head knowledge, you knew of it, and maybe you had experienced it on some level, but it's like it became embodied.
Totally.
It became part of who you are, like you live out of it. I've listened to interviews that you've given, and there's a recurring question in some of them of you wondering if you're enough. Has that question been answered a little?
I think on some level it has. I think the brutality of, as you know, of breakfast television.
Yep. You're a stronger woman than I.
It's, whether it's the hours, whether it's the feedback, I'm constantly going, was that good enough? The question of, am I good enough now, no longer exists.
That's profound, Jenny-May.
Yeah.
That is profound.
Yeah, because I can now look at it and go, no, and it has only been since receiving my kauae. I'm the embodiment of my ancestors. I am everything that they wanted me to be. And on the daily, yes, you question, the things that you do, the questions that I ask, or am I a good mother? All of those sorts of things, the decisions that you make. I can separate those out now from me as, a person. And it's a beautiful space to be in. It doesn't mean life's still not a struggle on a daily,
Dean, we could bring Dean in here. I got to ask, what have you seen or observed of Jenny-May in this kind of embracing and embodying of?
Because I don't know this.
For me, I saw it on her, but again, it's not my place to say. And we had a conversation, and I said, one time, and I just said, would you consider? And she goes, no. I was like, okay, cool. I'll move on. And then when she said, I think I'm gonna, I just went, sweet, let's go. And so again, it was just a matter of how do I best support this journey. Watching her, and it was funny. I was wanting to do a post the other day about my beautiful wife. I can't remember what for, but I
just for fun.
I come to sometimes do that. But I was looking for a photo, and all I could find was photos, and she didn't have, like, it was, and I'm like, oh. And I mean, I always thought she's beautiful, but it was different. It had a different feeling to it, and I went, it's not her, even though it was her. Without
my kauae.
Without the kauae, and it was, for me, it's just. Yeah, it's just been a beautiful process to watch. I think my darling will. She doesn't, she doesn't suffer fools in a sense that she doesn't really give a shit sometimes, what people will think on a level.
Good.
Other times I know that it does affect her.
Stink.
Yeah, totally. But I look at her and I see a different strength now. And I know that that's that process because I watched the process and I saw, and I know that she's standing with that that strength, that newfound strength that was always there, but it's revealed itself in a different way to her now, I believe.
Yeah.
I do see that in her now.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I was hesitant to do this podcast, and part of my reluctance had come from the fact I haven't actually talked about it. Of course, I've talked about it with my whānau, people who are, again, in my circle. They understand, and I've had these conversations with them. But sometimes I find it very difficult to be able to express, that journey. And so part of me talking about it is, again, it's this judgment thing, right? And being able to tell your story without people picking bits out of it and going, so how did she receive it? Did her family agree to it? All of those sorts of things. And so that's always been, there was a written piece that Indira did for me, which was beautiful. And for me, that had everything that I felt that my journey that I wanted to tell, the doubts when I received it, the doubts that I felt. Do other women who receive kauae even have that moment of, what have I done? Or is this just because I'm on television and I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. Oh my God, the people, when they see me, how are they going to respond to me? Having that moment of just absolute freaking out. And I still remember it to this day, getting up out of bed, and Dean was going, I got up, got changed, I didn't know what to do because I had all these thoughts in my head.
Yeah.
And I thought, why is that happening to me? This is who I am. Why am I having these doubts? And then it left. But I guess going back to my point, what I'm saying is talking about it, it's a scary thing for me on that level.
Yeah.
I've got no doubt about who I am and my right to have my kauae and stand in my mana. But again, I'm a human being. How people perceive that by me talking about it and my journey. This is still me. Yes, I have my kauae, but I'm still the same person. Yeah. So I care about that people get to see me on a daily and hopefully kind of don't even see it anymore, that this is just part of who we are as a bicultural society, that, here I am, Māori woman, wearing a kauae on television. Yeah.
You can't, they say, don't they, you can't go somewhere where you haven't seen. And like Indira had her curly long hair on breakfast, you've got your kauae. It's like, I hear stories of Pacifica women who were like, wow, I had no idea, my curly hair.
Yeah.
Or,
I can be me.
I can be me.
It's okay.
And so it's not really the specificity.
Specificity.
Yes. Necessarily of each individual location, but that as people from Aotearoa or as Māori or as Pākehā or as wahine women, we would be allowed to be who we are, and then be able to celebrate each other, not require each other all to follow a script. And I know that you've said, you know, about the narratives in your head, narratives of good enough, and I think, have the narratives changed in your head recently? Like how, as a woman who's perimenopausal and standing in her
I
Māori
don't
tongue
care. I just kind of, you know, I turned 50 this year.
Yes, you did.
And I just don't care anymore. I talk about perimenopause on air. I don't, you know,
Freedom.
When it can't, you know, if there's a moment, I'll talk about it. I won't hesitate. I won't go, oh, is that appropriate? It's like, I don't care if it's appropriate or not. There's an opening, I'm going to talk about it, because the more we talk about it, the more we understand it, the more we know it. And yeah, I think there is, you know, you get to a point, I think, of saying, okay, this is me, warts and all. You can like it or not like it, but I don't care. You know, if I no longer have a job, well, so be it. Because, I don't know, everybody experiences what I'm experiencing.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in conversation with my body and brain and heart in a way that's much kinder than I used to be.
Yeah, maybe I am. I'm not sure.
You could get there.
Yeah. I mean, I still have moments about, you know, as an athlete, I look back and I go, oh my God, look at my arms. Oh my God, look
So
at my
strong.
body.
Yeah, it was.
You know, and then I go,
it's all true.
oh, what happened? Okay, well, this is it.
You had twins.
Then I had twins, but you know, that was 8 years ago.
Just
Should
haven't
have
got
sorted
rid of the
my-
baby fat.
Should have sorted myself out by
They were big twins.
now. Yeah, I know, but yeah.
I think that it doesn't. I think that we needed that strength and that, like, there's that whole reproductive attractiveness that is actually real. Like, you see how svelte young humans are and how virile and how muscly potentially they are, and you're like, wow, that's a very attractive look. But we're no longer in that season of our lives. We don't need it. And I know that it's really annoying when I don't fit my clothes, but there's a part of me that just went like squidged all of my belly the other day, and I was like, oh well, there we go, that's still okay.
I'll talk
still
about
me.
it. I don't mind talking about it, you know. Sitting on the couch, I remember saying, oh, this is terrible. I was saying it, sitting on the couch next to my work colleagues, two guys, and I'm sitting there and I look at them and I go, oh my God, I've just realised I've just grabbed the side of my guts and it's going over my undies. And they're just both sitting there going, okay, so Daniel, what are you doing after the show? I'm like, no, this is real. Like, this is actually real. I know. And I look at them and I go, you know, not Chris Chang, he still looks, you know, relatively slim. I look at Daniel and I go, hey, I mean, we were young once and we looked amazing. And so we spark up this conversation about how amazing we used to look. And I just kind of go, that's real talk. I mean, you know, I'm not pretending to be anything that I'm not. It doesn't mean that I don't miss those days of fitting my jeans or
I hear you.
not having to buy size 12 undies. And ones that pull my guts in.
The suck me in
My
undies.
fat pants, I call them. I'm wearing my fat pants today. Anyway, that kind of went sideways very quickly.
Well, I was just thinking about the not caring.
It's funny, aren't I such a contradiction?
Yeah.
I don't care, but now I do care.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that annoys me that I do feel like that, you know, in these moments where I go, no, I don't care what people think, and then I'm having a go at myself about how I look or things that I have said or questions that I've asked during the show. It's freaking annoying. It really is.
I think it's hard to unpack those old narratives. Like, I feel like the part of the slowing down of aging is actually creating space to be kinder. It's like my thoughts and everything isn't racing so fast now that I'm just like hammering myself with this critique and judgment, trying to make myself better all the time. I'm like, a whole narrative comes in and I'm like, whoa, Petra, we could just, is that true? Is that narrative actually still functioning in a way that is life-giving? And I go, no, it's not. And the more I say thanks but no thanks to that narrative, I think the more I create space for a different narrative. So that one day I won't be questioning.
Yes, that's right. One day we'll go straight to that space.
Yeah. Of love and acceptance.
Yes.
And look, I can choose to wear an underwire bra or not, suck me in undies or not. do me hair fancy
Same.
or not. Dean, any thoughts?
Same. I try not to wear an underwire bra much, but sometimes I have to if we're going out.
Stop it.
Cool. A couple of quick fire questions to finish.
Oh,
What are you guys doing in terms of how do you input Dean into your relationship to keep it, I guess, I know that you care about it, that you seem to have a vision for your relationship. What is it that you do that is a yes to you and Jenny-May?
I make sure that I wake up every morning at stupid o'clock when she leaves to kiss her goodbye, because you never know whether it's the last one or not. And so that's always been a thing for me. Just, I want my darling to go into the world knowing she's deeply loved. I know when she's been mad at me, and I can count on a number of hands where she knows that that's important to me, so she'll get out the door before she's had to kiss me, and I'm like, I can't believe it, she's gone, she didn't even kiss me. So for that's just one practical thing. But I think for me, it's just letting her know. I let her know all the time, despite her response.
What do you let her know?
Or lack of.
How much I love her, how important she is, how much I value her and what she brings to our whānau. I let her know that she's the most important woman to me in the world, and I'm very, very passionate about us modelling that to our children. And it reminds me of a time when we said, I said, we should go out, we need to go away and, date night or whatever. She said, yeah, but the kids. And I said, no, they need to know. They need to understand that they are second. We're actually first. And we need to model that, because one day they will walk into the world out of our home. At some point, it's going to happen.
Not
darling.
anytime soon. They're going to be there till they're 40.
Yep, 50 if you have your way. But and we need to model that. So I'm very much how I speak. I want my sons to grow up to not be afraid to not buy into the narrative of what men are like. These rugby playing, tough exterior, can't express their feelings and their love. So I try and model that the best that I can. So, and I say to my wife sometimes, I think I might be just weird because I like to do, I do that a lot. But I think it's really important.
Yeah. What do you do, Jenny?
What do I do, babe?
The question was asked to you, darling. You answer that.
I'm not very good at it at all. My husband knows I love him. Hey.
Yes, darling.
And I let him guide me in these spaces. Before I met my husband, I wasn't a very what's the word? I wasn't very affectionate, I guess I would say. And again, I think for me, I just get on with things. And then, I've never had a relationship where I've had this kind of talk, space given to me, space given to us, the importance of who I am within our own relationship. But to be perfectly honest, nothing. Not much. No, I'm just here supporting my husband in different ways. But he is the glue within our relationship, without a doubt. Yeah, and I'm grateful for that.
If I could add one thing. So, with love languages and stuff, and I know you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And so I'm words of affirmation.
I was going to say.
So I get lots of it.
Yeah.
Words are not the
only language. Yeah.
No, and Jenny-May's acts of service.
Yeah.
So that's the way she loves on us. So she'll do a whole lot of stuff and around the whare, and that's her way of. And I know that that's her way of expressing her love.
You're so kind, babe.
Hey,
so kind.
like it is. It's. But I know that we give love in the way we want to receive it. And so I know it's important for you to not just receive the words, but I'll give them anyway, even though I know it's not her love language, because she's like, oh, thanks, babe. Thanks, babe. You know, but that's all. I do notice that, and she does that with the boys, and the way that she, you know, she'll do everything when we go fishing. She's made us all, everyone, sandwiches and done all that so that we go off, and that's her way of expressing
Her love.
Her love.
Her aroha.
And so I feel it.
So good. The final question I ask every guest is, you have to imagine yourself as an 80-year-old couple, so 30-ish years from now, and you are 80 years old. What does 80-year-old Jenny-May say to you today?
Your happiness is the most important thing. And I say that within the daily grind of life. And that we have to do what we love and what makes you happy. Even though there are so many other things around that are keeping you cemented where you are, and that your heart knows where it wants to go and you have to follow it. Whether I actually take that advice on, well, that's another story, but
hey, 80-year-old, wise 80-year-old me, great, follow my heart. I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
Dean, what would your 80-year-old self say to you today?
This kind of sounds really weird to me, but I kind of go, keep doing what you're doing. Because I choose my family before anything else. My wife and my children, most importantly, before work or anything that I do. And I think, having lost a lot of people lately, just how life is so fragile, but we need to continue to live it in its fullness, but also to not miss it.
Aye.
And so for me, it's about just keep on loving, keep on being present, showing up for each other, hold on to each other and keep walking. We might need a walker by then, but
yeah, bring on the walkers.
Yeah.
Don't want to fall.
Yeah.
We don't want to
No.
fall. Don't want to have a fall. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. I hear your wise elders speaking wisdom to you. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. See, I told you he was...
Katina pai. He's a nice guy. Yeah. More than just a pretty face.
embracing the grey as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
it, babe.
Thank you so much. Thank you for showing up and being present to this kōrero. Ngā mihi nui kia korua.
Tēnā
Thank you
koe.
so much.
Kia ora.
Really appreciate it.